The election of 1929 was definitely one of the strangest elections in Australian history, not only for its proximity to the previous election, at less than 11 months, but also due to the lack of a Senate election. But what brought about such an immediate election to create the shortest term in Australian history? Simple answer: the Great Depression. Since the election of 1928, the economy had only gotten worse. Australian exports continued to drop as debt increased, which in turn led to pay cuts and layoff to workers. This resulted in even more industrial disputes, which in turn led to even more economic stagnation. Prime Minister Stanley Bruce felt that if the economy was to be saved, drastic action was needed. In 1929, he brought forward an ultimatum for the states to let federal arbitration handle all industrial disputes, or he would completely dismantle it on a federal level. This was done in an attempt to end the duality of the court system rulings that had been growing over the decade, which I talked about earlier in the election of 1925. This move shocked not only the opposition, but Bruce's own cabinet, who were not informed beforehand about Bruce's intentions. As the states were already facing a lot of threats to their autonomy, they quickly opposed the abandoning of their personal arbitration powers. Thus, Bruce continued with his controversial plan to dismantle federal arbitration. This did not go over well with the public, who feared worse working conditions and lower pay if all arbitration powers were given back to the states. Dismantling federal arbitration was not the only controversial policy. Coalition Treasurer and Country Party leader L. Page pushed forward for a new tax on the growing entertainment industry to help balance out the ballooning deficit. This was a largely unpopular move, especially with several nationalist members who were big fans of the growing movie industry, which would now face a larger tax burden. Eventually, the Labor Party under leader James Squillen would pass a no-confidence motion in Bruce's government on the 14th of August. This move was triggered by Bruce dropping charges against coal mine owner John Brown, who had previously locked workers out of his mine to force them to accept lower wages. The no-confidence motion failed, but not before former Prime Minister Billy Hughes and another Nationalist member crossed the floor to side with Labor, a move which would see both excluded from any future party meetings. After surviving a no-confidence movement, Bruce brought forward the Second Maritime Industrial Bill, the bill which would abolish federal arbitration. During the second round of debates, Hughes brought forward an amendment that the bill should not be passed without the support of the people, either via a referendum or a general election, a motion that immediately got the support of Labor, as well as several nationalists. With a referendum off the table, the only way such an amendment could be passed would be through a general election, and with 35 to 34 members in favour of the amendment, Bruce desperately needed support from anyone if he hoped to stop an early election. He attempted to get House Speaker Sir Littletown Groom, not another silly name, to attempt to bend the rules so he could pass a vote against the amendment to generate a tie which he as Speaker could then break with a casting vote. Groom, however, was against such an underhanded tactic and refused, a move which might have been brought about due to his resentment after being demoted from Attorney General to House Speaker a few years prior. Thus, with the motion passed, Bruce had no choice but to call the earliest election in Australian history. So early that the senators whose terms would not expire for another 2 years wouldn't even be put up for re-election, making this one of the only House elections in Australian history. And the winner was? For the first time in 15 years, Labor had won, with James Squillen picking up 15 seats to now have 46, with 56.7% of the two-party preferred, their biggest win at the time. Squillen's win was largely due to his status quo approach to the federal arbitration, which despite the duality problem, was still popular with the public. Bruce would not only lose 18 coalition seats, bringing the party down to 24 seats, but also his own seat of Flinders to Labor member Jack Holloway. This was the first time a Prime Minister lost his seat in an election, and would not occur again until 2007 with Prime Minister John Howard. With the loss of their leader, the Nationalists would quickly make Attorney General and former Liberal Union member John Latham as their new leader. Squillen had won the top job due to a failing economy, but now as Prime Minister, that failing economy would now be on him. Worse yet, due to the lack of a Senate election, the upper house remained in the hands of Squillen's opponents, which would prove to be a big problem. Come back next time for the election of 1931.